everything. Just
All right,
yeah. Nice.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the True Life Podcast. It's Friday. Hope everybody's having a beautiful day. Hope you got plans for the weekend. The sun is shining, the birds are singing, the wind is at your back. I got Stephen Franklin here. He's the founder of Larix Media, video content creator, comedian, musician. Also, co-founder, writer, producer of the Transcendental Comedy Experience, an incredible storyteller who has collaborated with a multitude of companies such as Ben & Jerry's and the NBA. He is quite an interesting character. He's coming to us from the great state of Vermont. How you doing today, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. How you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited you're here, man. I was one of the things that really drew me to your profile was the fact that you have this really great relationship with humor and communication, and I really like the way that you kind of fuse those together. But before we get into everything you're doing, maybe you could help me and the audience understand like your origin story, man. Like, how did you get to be where you are today?
Oh man, I'll give you like a short mid-range version.
Yeah.
But basically,
Perfect.
like, you know, I grew up in a small town, 1,300 people in West Addison, Vermont. You know, farmland, and you know, I just kind of just hung out there, and you know, my parents had businesses, so a lot of it was just kind of on my own, in my own brain. But so like I was just hanging out with myself, you know, it's like having the good brain time. But one interesting, I'm sorry, this is instantly gonna go like into a big thing, but like I'll swing it back in, But so when I was really young, like when I was like a little kid, I couldn't talk at all. Like I just like mumbled and made noises. Like I guess I just like I don't know how my brain was perceiving sounds, but for like, you know, there's a few years of my life where like I try to communicate with people and like apparently, and like it wouldn't connect because they're like, what are you talking about? Like ginger ale, you're calling it goo goo gas. What is that? like that doesn't make any sense. So I always had this stuff going in my brain. Like you're trying to explain it to someone you can't talk, kind of annoying. So like, you know, around 9 years old, my family, we got a camera. We got like one of those big handy cams with like the big VHS things for Christmas as like a family gift. And I was like instantly hooked on that thing. Cause like, I was like, I can take whatever's going in my brain and I can put it into something where I don't have to tell anyone about it. I can just show them, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, that's amazing. So ever since then, like I've just been pursuing video, through school, like high school, college, making videos with friends, and it's kind of developed into like where I now am is where now I have a video production company, and I do I have Transcendental Comedy Experience with me and my buddies that do this. I do some lowbrow comedy stuff, and it's like I got to figure out how I could project my brain to the world, and also there's like I bet you can understand this, is like you have this podcast, like you want to learn about people, right? Like you want to like see what's going on in there, and I enjoy that too. I love hearing people's stories. So like, you know, that love of hearing people's stories, me building like that skill of like being able to like present stories visually and through audio. Like I was like, oh, like if I'm gonna have like a company that's gonna be like helping people out, like that's like kind of like my motto is like I will like sympathize with you, listen to you deeply, figure out what's really going on in there, and then like try to project that out from your perspective. And you know, obviously it gets convoluted between my brain and their brain, right? But it's never going to be 100%. But like being able to just like help people who don't have that technical skill to like, you know, film, edit, you know, do audio, mixing music, and doing all that stuff is like, I don't know, man. I enjoy it. I love it. I love helping people do that. And so, yeah, that's me.
It's awesome. It sounds to me like, you know, when you, as a young kid, and you know, you have you have this problem as a kid that you're like, man, and it's like a communication problem, but you find a way to solve it, and you get so good at it, you're able to help other people solve that problem. It's like you can translate the vision into reality. And that's such an incredible skill, and especially when you could do it for other people, man. I think that's probably why you're so successful. And it brings me to this idea of like, sometimes the biggest problems we have growing up turn to be the most fertile field for us to grow our passions and our business out of, man.
Oh yeah. Like I feel like the circumstances of that, like it's almost like you wonder if there's like some like higher energy out there that's like, hey, we're going to put you through some stuff and make you have to deal with it, and maybe it'll give you like a path, but it's like I don't, like, I'm like, if I never had that speech thing, like maybe I wouldn't have ever done, like I haven't thought about that literally till today, but maybe I never would have thought about doing video. Like I don't know, but like I'm so glad I'm going where it's going, because like I'm just, like I said, I just love helping people, and it's just fun being able to see in people's brains, and some like seeing things that a lot of times other people can't see. Like I don't know, I'd go to like sorry, I'm just going all over the place, but
no, it's
I go
perfect.
to like I'm into comedy, and like when I first started doing comedy, like there's the comedy scene in Vermont's like 10 years ago was like almost nothing. It was there was one comedy club that started up and it lasted like a couple of years. Now it's starting to thrive. Like there's a Vermont Comedy Club, and it has like a good group of people and all this and comedy and stuff. But like, so I'd go to like these shows, you go to like the open mics, and you're listening to people tell their jokes, like, different people with different experience and, talent, like level of talent. And and like, there'd be jokes that people would tell, and like I would be laughing at it, but no one else would be laughing at it, because like because I feel like I could see, like I see what they're getting at, like it's like I see the connect. It's just okay. Apparently, other people, like, it takes a little longer to like explain it to people, but like I see what you're saying. It's just like finding the right verbs and like like the right words to fill in to get like the general audience who not saying people don't like to listen, but like, people have their lives, people are busy, people, they can't just stay, like hunker down and get super compassionate about every single person they like walk across, you know what I mean? So it's like, so it's kind of, so I like, that's kind of learning that too, and being like, oh, I can utilize that skill and and make money out of it, which would be sweet,
Yeah, that's fascinating to think about. One of my favorite old philosophers. Well, he's not really old, but this guy Marshall McLuhan, and he talked about the way in which we interpret media, and he talked about the spoken word, how it's different from like the visual things that you see, right? So like he called them like hot and cold mediums. So like a hot medium would be a picture or a movie where you watch something and all of a sudden you get the vision given to you. But like a book or like the spoken word, you have to go in and you have to create your own mental picture in there. And it's pretty interesting how those two things work together. I'm curious, when you're creating videos for people, or maybe when you're doing comedy, or maybe just in general, how do you see those two different mediums, and do you use them in what you do, like the spoken word versus like a video or something like that? How do you use those relationships?
It's all like, to me, it's all just one thing, it's like, it's all like sound, visual, sound, you can communicate, that you're angry by going, I'm angry, or by like, ah! You can be like, what do you do? What?
Yeah.
What do you do? You know what I mean? It's like, you don't like, so to me, it's all just like, a lot of it's just, it's just the visuals, like, that's the easiest. You get the most amount of information from your visual sense, right? Like you can just get so much variety of stuff. And audio, it gives you like that, you get audio, like sound can really like change the feeling, the way the environment sounds, like a hum in the background or something like that. Like it changes like the perception of what the situation you're in. And so to me, it's just like audio visual, like all totally necessary combined. And it's just like, it all blends together. The words is like, I like to be able to do things in as least amount of words as possible on my end. I like to be concise. I like to get the message across. And that's why I love video, is because it's like, I can explain something to you and it could take me forever. You might not be able to put the picture together. Or, like I could go into Photoshop and I could like build out this like go into Photoshop and then these different like CGI programs and like build a 3D environment that I think was kind of what was going on in my head. And now you can just look at that and like, I don't have to explain it to you. And I can show that to anyone, whenever, all the time, because now it's like it's a thing. It's like it's a video file. You know what I mean?
It's true.
So
it brings up another question I think about. Like maybe it's because you have a background in comedy and music, but what do you think is like the relationship between like comedy and marketing?
I feel like comedy is in my mind is the best way. There's the heartstrings where it's like you're doing like the emotional like puppies, arms of the angel type thing, but then there's like the huge and you're like, oh man. And that's like gives you like that sadness, fear, like I want to help. But then there's comedy, which is like, I feel like the reason I even like got into comedy. It's like, you know, it's been a part of my life. Like I was super into like Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. It was like like Jim Carrey was my first like ever, like I was super fan of Jim Carrey, like just like a goofy character. But I just realized early on that, like, you know, I was like the youngest, and like growing up, like you need to show your you need to fit in, and like the easiest way to fit in is to get you, like, try to think like the people high, like everyone above you's thinking, and then but also like just being able to take tense situations and dissolve them. And it's like, so it's like a problem solving, like comedy is can, like with humor, it can be a problem solving, like a coping technique, a way to like resolve situations, and that works directly with when you're trying to sell a product. Like you want people to feel like, you want to make it like comedy makes people feel a little bit more vulnerable. They're more open. People love that feeling of like a jovial laugh is like, you can't just force someone to do like a genuine laugh. You get that genuine laugh and like they feel good, and it's and that's genuine. Like they felt that. So it's like you mix that with that feeling with a product, you know, like people are going to be like, oh, I'm way more likely to be into that than someone just being like, hey, here's a box. Like, isn't the box? It's got lots of vitamins and minerals. It's like, you can do that, but like, it's not going to stick out, you know?
Yeah, it's a great point. And I never really thought about it from that angle, but I guess on some level, when you're able to get someone to give like a genuine belly heartfelt laugh, what you're doing is you're associating good times with whatever it is you're showing to them, right? Like,
exactly.
And you're crossing that over. And that's such a, even though that's like, I think that the reason I like that better is because I go, oh, these people went out of their way to try to make me feel good versus trying to make me feel like a piece of garbage, like I'm killing puppies or something. Even though they both work, like it's way better to pull on the humor string than like the heartstrings, where like, okay, I just feel guilty, I'm gonna buy this thing right now or something like that. But it's interesting to think about, right?
You want to make people feel good, and like growing up, like I always, like, just in the way that I grew up was always, I always put myself as like, you know, low self-esteem. So it was like since with the low self-esteem, it's like you're always being like, everyone's better, like try to lift other people up, you know? Like it's like, it's always like when you see someone who feels bad, you're like, oh, I know what that feels like, so I want to make them not feel bad. And so you try to, you know, you do it, you listen, you make jokes, you try to connect and figure out like how you can make jokes from how you understand how their life is, to make them understand. Because joke writing isn't easy. Like you can do general comedy that's, you know, like, oh, you know, when I walked in, you know, what's going up in the airplanes? What's going on in airplanes? Like all that stuff, right? There's like, that's like the typical like Jerry Seinfeld thing. But then there's like, you go like, it's like you got to go deep. Like you need to go deep, and it's like people, you can do goofy, just silly stuff, which I love to do that. I love just silly, dumb humor, which is easy to do when you have low self-esteem because you're just like, I don't care. Like I don't have a reputation to worry about. So like, I'm just gonna, you know what I mean? So like, which I've since worked on. My self-esteem is increasing. But I don't even know where I was going with that. Where did I end there?
We were just talking about humor, and like sometimes the way it comes about in people is growing up in situations where that's all you have, whether you're the youngest, or sometimes you get beat up a lot, so you have to figure out ways to tell people they're dumb without telling people they're dumb. You know what I mean? They have to like reduce to absurdity people's arguments. Oh, so what you're saying is this, right? You know, and try to trick them a little bit. Kind of like
so you try to make them go take an exit, like an early exit to Laugh Town instead of like Beat Downtown, you know?
That's so true, yes.
Like, why don't we go check out this place? They got like cool pizza and stuff over there.
Before you hit me, let me just tell you this one thing, right?
Please. Just a quick pit stop, laugh on. Sure.
Yeah, it's awesome to think about the way that is. And I sometimes I think that, you know, another part of humor that works in marketing is this idea of wordplay. And like, you know, there's certain sorts of like containers, like there's one called like, man, now I'm drawing a blank, but it's something along the lines of like, if you use like alliteration, or like something like the butterfly fluttered by, you know, when you use words that sound like each other, but they're not quite each other, it kind of gets people into a trance. There's all these literary devices you can use, like alliteration, like the purple pews in the church of Chernobyl. You know, when you start using letters that sound the same and flow like that, there's all these little devices that you can plug things into that will get people's attentions pretty quick, right?
Yeah, it's like that's musical. Like I always think about that because it's like it's what it is. It's like you're taking the word and you're giving, like, obviously you're having meaning with your slogan.
Sure.
And it's like, you know, it's hypnotic, you know. I can't even think of one. I can't think of one right now, but like just because I'm just like my brain just goes a million miles a minute. But I always love, like, I do music too. I produce music. Right. I did that. What started out when I was in high school, like making beats, like sampling old like soul and stuff like that. And you would just like listen to those like you'd hear their vocalizations, but like there's just like the sounds, like it's like a little melody. It's like a little stinger for like when you're listening to like a you know, you start to watch like WWFE or something like that, and there's like a little and like you remember that little because that comes in the beginning. It's like, and you have those slogans. I feel like it goes into like into an extended part of your brain. You know, it's like it's not just verbal. You're getting musical, and the musical part there's a different part of the musical brain. Correct? Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like you are literally filling in more space with like that message. So it's like, so in my mind, it would make sense. Like, you know, I'm no psychologist or anything like that, but like, I would imagine that, like, you know, you're filling in more spaces, and people just love silly sounds, like flippily floppily, like zip zoop zibbly zam, you know, like it's just like, I don't know, it's just it sounds fun.
I think of all the little techniques like by Menon, you know, like all these little things are like, all these little things just stick in your head, you know, and you realize, they're just devices. I remember the song by the Bee Gees, "Staying Alive." I remember reading an article on it, and one of the reasons they gave for that song being so popular so fast for so long is that the drum beat is the same rate as your heartbeat. And so you're automatically identifying with the you know, and it's like, oh, whoa. You start beginning to understand. There's all these relationships here with communication that people who are savvy about them can really put out into the ether, and other people will be attracted to them. You know, it's kind of like sometimes you're attracted to a person, you can't tell why. And you're like, man, I wonder, I don't know. I just really like them, you know? But it's the same thing with music. It's the same thing with advertising. It's the same thing with propaganda. It's the same thing with marketing. It's the same thing with comedy. And if we can just hone down what are these little things that we're doing that really get people's attention, then we can really become really effective communicators. I think you've nailed a bunch of them. Like, your stuff is really awesome.
Thanks, man. Actually, now that made me think of. Now I'm thinking of multiple slogans. Well, the first one was like, O'Reilly's Auto Parts. There's that one. Yeah. But then there's one that goes right with what you were saying. Do you remember that song back in the day? It was like a one-hit wonder. It was like, "You're unbelievable." Oh, down. The funniest use of taking a song. This happened like years ago. I remember seeing this on television. There was an ad for this. Kraft came out with this, like, I don't think it lasted long, but it's called Kraft Crumbles. Okay. It was basically like little cheese crumbles that you could like basically put on top of whatever. It says they put it on top of salad. Who cares? They took that one-hit wonder, took that song, "You're Unbelievable," and it would go, "You're unbelievable." And then the last part of the slogan would be like, "That big cheese taste that blows you away, boom. You're unbelievable." I'm like, that is like wild. Like the fact that they pulled that off and they got like Kraft to like pay them all this money to do that. It's like, they're like, you know, we're a one-hit wonder. Let's just milk this as much as we can. Totally. But like, hey, gotta do what you gotta do.
Whatever.
Look that up on YouTube. It's very funny. I love it. At least I find it funny.
See, and that just piggybacks on once somebody has a hit, then other people can use it and like take that idea and make it theirs. And I guess that's why you start getting into like, you know, people start getting really mad about, like maybe not patents, but copyrights, right? Like when you hear like Vanilla Ice versus Billy Joel, you know, like ding, 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 ding. You know, like you can't take little hooks because people are like, wait, that's mine. I use that first, you know, and they don't like using their little literary device. It's kind of interesting. It's literally
just because it's all it is just notes. It's just sounds, right?
Yeah.
And it's like you just got a trademark on us. Like now no one can use that sound. Yeah. Like that's crazy.
That is crazy.
Like should I just like get like a quantum computer that like makes every single like song imaginable, like, and then just be like, oh, they're all mine. Like, sorry, can't make music anymore.
Yeah.
Like, if you use it, you gotta use it for something else. Sorry, you gotta pay me.
Yeah. Imagine if we patent the wheel. Like, sorry, can't use that. Only I can use the wheel.
Yeah, sorry, man. Like, and it's just one person and like just riding a giant unicycle, and that's it. Like, all I do is ride this unicycle. You can't use it for anything else. Sorry.
Man, in some ways, like I think that could be a problem with our planet. Like, no wonder we're like struggling. Like all the ideas you have to pay for. Like, it's like you have to go, okay, this is a great idea. This could solve world hunger. Nah, man, I don't want to sell that to you. I don't want you to use my idea. It's my idea.
It's like, yeah, yeah, exactly. Which is like, okay, cool. Like you made the idea. That's awesome. But like, do you want to just like make a lot of money for yourself, or do you want to like help humankind overall? And it's like and there's, you could combine those a little bit. Like you can still do like pretty well, but not like crazy, like insanely well, but like still be able to help a lot of people. Yeah. So it's like seeing when you see people who are just like, when they have inventions and stuff like that, and they just give the blueprints, and it's like, here it is. It's open source. Like, and it's just like everyone gets an equal opportunity to do what they can with that. And it's like the people who do the best will make it to the top. And you know what I mean? It's like, that's the hope, at least. Like this is kind of going off, but there's this program that's starting to do a lot of like 3D CGI. Like video games are made with this program, this engine called Unreal Engine. And it's like, it's making it, basically they've made it so you can make 3D worlds, do like the shots that you'd see in any like, Marvel movie or anything like that. You could, if you took the time, make it in this program. And they've made it so that the program's completely free, tons of free assets that you can utilize, like materials, whatever, to make what you want. Model, like, scans of like items that they've put in there as 3D objects. And it's just free out there for anyone to use. So like, as long as you have a computer, you can use it. And it's no charge unless like the company, unless you're like, if you make a video game, if the video game like makes over $1 million in profit, then they take like, they'll be like, okay, well, like we'll get a little piece of that, like a small percentage of that. But it's like giving everyone this equal opportunity to show off their skills. Because there's like, when you put like a price on things, and it's like, okay, I can't pay $600 for this program or whatever. Like that person could be like a genius at doing that. And and it's just like, they'll never got the opportunity. So it's like, it's cool to see companies like that, Epic Games, Unreal Engine, it's cool to see things like that. And like, hopefully that just becomes more the norm. Like, you know what I mean? Like it'd be cool. So instead of, and with music, like basically instead of like everyone being like, I got to grapple every single, like 3 notes put together. That's my 3 notes. Or like, that's my little wang, wong, wong sound, it's like, no, like, it's like you make it, you made your bit. And now, and like everything's like everything plays like everything that, or I feel like everything in the world is just played off of itself. It's like everything is a form of something that's already been created. Like that's what's the craziness about like humanity, is just like we've created all these things that just trickles out in all these different directions with all these different influences. And it's like to like put like a barrier where it's like, oh nope, you can't use this influence now. Like it's like you like what? Like I can't, like that, you just perimetered off a whole area that could be like fun zone, but it's got like security doors and 2 guys like smoking cigars outside. It's like you know what I mean? Like it's crazy. It's ridiculous.
It is crazy. I was watching one of your like promotional videos, and you were talking about there's certain parameters that different platforms do that help highlight your material. Like Instagram, you want to post X amount of times a day. Facebook, X amount of times a day. LinkedIn, X amount of times a day. Is that like, can you maybe go over that a little bit and talk about why it is that way?
Oh yeah, totally. So yeah, like all the different social platforms obviously have their own, they all have algorithms, right? They all have their way of putting information out there and moving things to the top, because the only goal for all these companies is to have people on their page for as long as possible, right? Like it's like, that's how they're making the money. They're getting the ad revenue off of that and everything like that. So what they do, usually what they do is like, they want like so much consistency on stuff to come out. And depending on the platform, it might vary. Like Instagram for a while was doing where they'd want reels. They want Instagram, like that came out, and they wanted short form video content. And that actually brought people up higher than photos and things like that. And if they were posting a lot more, they're like, oh, well, like this person, like we can trust this person's going to give us like consistent content. So like we'll help them out by putting it out there more.
I see.
So, and that'll be different but then, recently they've been like, oh, we're switching it to where now photos are getting more recognition again. Mm-hmm. So it's like, so they're like adjusting it to see how to keep people on the platform as long and figuring out what things people are attracted to the most. And yeah, that consistency of like, yeah, there's like LinkedIn. I think I've looked at multiple articles, like from like multiple studies of what people like just doing it, like testing it out, because they're not giving away the honey, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, yum. So people figured out, and like LinkedIn was like posting like something like, was it like 5 times a day or something like that?
Whoa.
Like it was crazy. And like Instagram would be like once or twice a day. And so I actually utilized me learning that for my a little bit actually when I was putting out some of the content that I put out on on my LinkedIn. But also Transcendental Comedy Experience, our comedy group. Last year I spent like over the course of 6 months made 200 to 300 shorts. And basically, and so like we'd get together, we'd film these PSAs, we do like mock PSAs about like pass on the gas, prevent a sudden shard attack, 3 wipes and you're out, like very highbrow stuff.
Right.
But we just would get, we just film ourselves, like improv, just shoot a bunch of things. And then I'd go and I'd cut it down. And I'd be like, okay, we need to take, what I'm seeing is the algorithm to make the viewership go up is like, you need to do more of these. So like at one point I was doing up to 3 videos a day, but on average doing about 2 a day and just consistently putting it out. And, like, obviously some of them, some are better than others, right? Like, some are just like, okay, we got it. And other people are like, oh, this one's awesome, but you don't know. And so like a lot of, which kind of goes with like the confidence in yourself with like putting content out is, that was the biggest thing for me. I think that's the biggest thing for other people is being worried about like, if I put out all this stuff, like, will I be made fun of, or like, I'll be called a loser, and then that's the end of it. And then like I've lost all my networking in the whole world is done, and everyone hates me, and like I get shot off into space, and then I get burned into the sun. But you're like, no, it's not. Like what happens, like you put out the content, what's coming out of your brain. It's since it's going through your brain, at least you connect with it in some way, right? Mm-hmm. And if you can connect with it in some way, there's billions of people out there.
Right.
There's got to be at least a couple, even if it only was one more. There could be another person that understands where you're coming from, because like we're not that varied, right? It's like we have our complicated lives, but everything kind of, we live in a finite world. The brain can only do so much,
Right.
Oh man, where was I going with that? I lost it again.
We're just talking about different content, and sometimes you were putting out like a bunch on the shorts.
Yeah, so you've put out more content, and like, okay, yeah, some of them might not do well, but some of the ones that you might think also would have not done well, and you would have just skipped over because you put out another thing that you thought was better that did not do well. That thing that you did not think was as good, but it came from your brain. That could be the thing that connects with everyone else. Yeah. It might just be something so like, maybe the reason you didn't think it was an idea worth putting out is you're like, oh, like obviously, like blatant idea, like why would I do that? Like in your head, you think it's like obvious. Like why would anyone care? But like you got to separate yourself from there. Like maybe people don't, and you got to be able to take that leap to be like, okay, is this something that connects with people? And the stuff that doesn't do well doesn't, it just goes away. People just don't pay attention to it. Right. Some people might be like, oh, this sucks. And you're like, okay, whatever. Like random person probably having a bad day and using this as their way to outlet. Like, okay, fine. You can use this bad video as your way to get it out. But like, but the good stuff that'll rise to the top. Like, it's like a tale as old as time. It always comes to the top. It always rises to the top. So it's like if you're someone who's trying to do that, you're trying to make content like online and build a following. Really, just believe in yourself, and like you're gonna hear that voice that tells you like, just stop. Like do a 10 of them and then you give up because it's not getting a response. You gotta hustle on it. You gotta like I said, I put out 300 and like 300 videos in a few months. And that was like a hustle, like going down and editing those all down from like 12 minutes, like because my buddies would go off and like do their PSA bits for like 12 minutes, like just going off saying, because they're just making it all up, right? Just like, this happened to me, and then I have to condense that down to 1 minute and make it still make sense. because like with those programs, it has to be like shorts had to be under 60 seconds. So it's like, you know, you're going to have to put a lot of work in with that type of stuff. And if you don't see any results right off, yeah, that's just what happens. Unless you're really lucky, it's not going to take off instantly. You need to just keep the grind on, believe in the vision, and know that like, if you're not getting the immediate results, like don't let that stop you, because you just got to have that like delayed gratification of like, I know what I'm doing. I trust myself. As long as you're enjoying doing it, just go for it, you know?
Yeah, I think that's what translates to is I think if you do enjoy it, if you enjoy the process of it, then the fruits of your labor they'll be rewarded. Maybe not instantly, maybe not immediately, maybe not even in the near future. But if you continue to do it, I think that inner voice begins to go from something that's confrontational to something that's complementary. Like instead of being like, this is dumb, I'm not going to do this anymore, it's not working, it's being like, what if I just rearrange it a little bit? You know, let me just try that, you know? And I think it's a great way for you to understand your vision. And it does help you translate like your communication skills. Because when you're editing something down from 12 minutes to 1 minute, that you as the individual are finding what's pertinent, what's important, what's funny, what's interesting. Sometimes you're moving the back to the front to flip it around, or sometimes you get into a minute and you're like, what if I took the last part and put it in the beginning? Yeah. And then it hits. And then you put that video out. I got 100 views on that one, you know, like whatever. I got, instead of 1,000, maybe people get, sometimes you get 1 million, sometimes you get 100,000, sometimes you get 10, but those are all little learning experiences, right?
Exactly. Like every it's like a little rep. Every time you're making something, you're working that muscle a little bit more. And it's like, you're only overall, like you're going to have your goods and your bads, but overall you're going to be going like that. Like, it's like the stock market. Like, you know, it's you got that 10%, it used to be 10% yearly, you know? I don't know how it is now, but yeah, it's just like, you gotta just be consistent, put it out there. And like as you put things out, you'll learn from those things, and that critical side of your brain will be like, oh, well, like instead of being like, wow, that was terrible, you're an awful person, you should like go like live in a hole for the rest of your life. Instead, you're like, you train that person, which like that's what I had to do, because my brain used to be like that. It used to be like very like, has to be perfect. If it's not worth it, you're not worth it. You're not, you know what I mean? It's like you're like you're down here, you should feel ashamed of yourself. Therapy. Oh, therapy helps, man. I recommend to any of you out there, therapy if you need it. If you're ever feeling down and you're like, oh, like my brain makes me feel like I'm terrible, maybe go to therapy.
I recommend magic mushrooms for that. Like, I think that that's like a great way to figure out what is wrong with you.
Oh, totally. Like I just see, like we were talking about this before, about a little mushroom zone over here. Honestly, I had a psilocybin experience that actually during that time when I was probably felt like I was at my worst in my life. I'm like, what am I doing? I was working a job doing video for like a car dealership, which is like, you know, I wasn't into cars, but like, it was like, I was able to learn from that job and stuff like that. But I was like, okay, what do I want to do? Like, I'm not interested in cars. What do I want to do as an individual? And I think and with comedy was like, was a big part of that. So it was like video comedy. At the time, I was basically using video to promote something that I did not care about, which is cars. Like, no, hey, if you love cars, go for cars. For me, they're just point A to point B. But like I had low self-confidence, and someone offered me that job, and I was like, oh, sweet. And it actually, you know, I learned a lot from that job. Like just teaching myself, moving myself further. And I got like a manager came in that was like, helped me like tremendously with like my self-confidence, and started letting me do documentaries and commercials. Like documentaries are about like veterans and stuff like that. So basically we were selling cars, but like we started, like she and I and like the group, we started just kind of like going off and being like, well, we got this funding and you're trying to like make money you're trying to make the company look good. Like, why don't we go like give money to like these like organizations, but then make like video content to like show it off to the world, you know? So then that got kind of fun. Like I was liking it. I was like learning all this stuff about people, and it's like I felt like I was helping. You know. But then like over time, you know, I was like, what do I do next? And you know, and then on the comedy side, like I was trying to get into the comedy community, like a very introverted person, and So I would drink a lot. I every time I'd go to a comedy thing, I would, before I would go there, I would drink. I would drink like I'd down like 2 vodka sodas. I'd be like, glug, okay, let's go. Okay, I'm going. Let's go. Like I put it in tea or whatever because I'd get so anxious and I'd feel so out of place all the time. Like I got along with people, but like I felt like I just didn't feel like I'm sure everyone feels that in some way. It's like I feel like I'm just not connecting with people. Like, is it me? Is it whatever? And so like I kind of spiraled down a little bit, started drinking more and all of this, and it kind of accumulated to a point where I'm like, man, I do not like this feeling at all. Like this sucks, So I ended up getting like a buddy of mine. He got me, and I tried some psilocybin, and I had done mushrooms before and stuff like that. I've tried other things like back in the deep in the past, or not deep in the past actually, but I took this and I was like at my lowest point, and I remember just like it felt. That was a huge turning point, honestly, where I started getting my stuff together because it basically felt like I was like an astronaut. Like the earth was my brain, it was my consciousness, right? Like the earth was like all my life experiences, everything that I lived, like my emotional part of my brain and everything. And then the psilocybin, like it felt like only I compare it to is like being like an astronaut in space and looking down at it. Like, when people say like, they're like the astronauts say when they go onto space and they see how insignificant the earth is, it felt just like that. And I'm like, all these things that were like big deals, like I'm looking at them as like an astronaut from space, looking at these problems and the ways that I react to things and how I deal with situations. And I'm like, oh, well, we can fix that. Like, that's not a big deal at all. Like you made that into a lot bigger deal than it needed to be. You're in it and I understand, but like, so it was like the logical part where that used to sometimes that critical part would be like, hey, you're terrible. Instead, it was like this logical part of the brain that was completely separated from like ego. And it's just like, well, here's what you have to do. You feel really good right now. There are ways to make this happen. You felt this good before. And it's just, you got to figure out the mental things you need to do. And that's when I started doing therapy. I started going into therapy. Yeah. I started going like hauling at it, like just do it. Like I remember going to the therapist and I'm like, let's just get this done as soon as possible. Like, be as critical to me as possible. Like if you're telling me I'm being a little bitch about something, like let me know. Like I just want to know, and like let's get this going. Yeah. And like within like a course of so after that experience and then some like therapy, it like totally changed my outlook. And then during that period that then I started having with that outlook, it made me connect with the 2 friends that I do Transcendental Comedy Experience with now. Yeah. And from there, then I started being like, okay, then COVID happened, and the whole marketing department lost their job. They're like, okay, we don't need people making documentaries about veterans for our cars. Like, I'm like, dang it! But I was like, actually, best thing that ever happened to me, because now I'm forced to figure out my own stuff, and I want to be able to do this. And so like everything, it's like once I change that view of like, instead of feeling like, oh my god, the world, I'm terrible, and just being like, hey, just hustle through it and make things happen. Everything just starts to connect. Like the chaos that exists in the world, you just like start grabbing things. You're like, oh, that thing's interesting, and you grab it, and then you're just like you're building something out of it. And it's like if you have that outlook, it just changes everything. Like I feel like I'm like the happiest I've been like since I was a kid. I feel like. And it's like it's just me working on starting this business, doing the comedy stuff with my friends, and just like, making ends meet and hanging out, having fun. And it's like, this is the life that I like. And it's, I don't know. Once again, I don't know where that question was. No, it's off a little bit.
It's the most beautiful answer ever. And it's something that I want the heart of my podcast to be about, is people finding the best versions of themselves and hearing the story of how they did it, and like, I didn't even know you had that experience, but when I see you doing what you're doing, I see you excited about it. I see you happy about it. I see you putting out content that is going out of its way to make other people feel good about it. I'm like, dude, what's this guy all about? Look at this guy. He's just trying to throw some beauty out in the world, make people laugh and have a good time and make some money doing it. Let's talk to this guy. And it's so fascinating to me that a psilocybin experience helped you get there, because I think that if we look around the world, like a lot of people are just like us. A lot of people got up and went into a job where like they did it. They made a paycheck. Maybe they support their family. Maybe they paid their mortgage with it. But inside they're kind of dying a little bit, And if I could have one message that comes out of this podcast, or one of my messages would be like, you're so much better. You're so much better. If you just have the courage to do what you love, I promise you the world will reward you. If you just stand up for what you believe in and just take baby steps. Maybe that first standing up is getting outside and going for a walk, or maybe it's standing up for yourself, or maybe it's just being true to yourself. But if you begin that process, I promise that little voice that speaks kind words to you will get louder and louder and louder. And pretty soon it'll be yelling at you like, you're the best, man. You could do it. And when you have that feeling, all of a sudden you start radiating beauty out into the world, like what you're doing, man. So thanks for sharing that.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. Like, that's very, very nice compliment.
Yeah, it's true.
But that's the thing is like, it's so easy for like, it's like when I get it, people, if the people are in that spot, like I get the feeling. It's the worst, and it feels like terrible, but like you can get out of it, and there are ways, and it's like you find ways to work on yourself. And like I said, like that's why I think psychedelics are great, because it's like it does certain neurological things that makes you be able to like kind of step away from yourself. It's like it's like a spiritual thing. It's like you know what I mean? It's just like it's crazy. So it's like if you can find proper tools to help you out and help you motivate, get yourself in that zone to go, you know, it's just like put the hustle out there, figure out what you need to do, and just trust that if you do it, it'll work out. And it's like if you keep doing what you love and keep with a goal of just keep doing it, like you either die. I heard this, like you either die or you finish the job, right? It's like there's no failing there. If you have a dream, you just go for that and find ways to like, pay bills. Like you figure, like, do your finances, figure out like, what do I have to do to actually survive? And then how can I use that to like hold me over while I'm figuring out the thing I want to do? Or how can I do small, like you said, small little steps to just be able to like, maybe I can make a little bit doing this and I'm doing the side thing. But it's like, as long as you're gradually switch, like doing stuff and trying to make positive choices for yourself. It's just good. Yeah, it's going to go exponential. Like it's like your return on yourself is like so much better than the stock market. You know, like it's like you're going like it gets exponential once you start believing in yourself. It's like whoa. Like I feel like I'm so early on still, but like I'm like I can see like 5 years from now. I can see and like 5 years ago I was like I could see 4 or 5 years from now, and I'm like not doing like I'm in the area of where I want to be. Like it's just like if you have that vision, think about it. It doesn't happen instantly. Give yourself some time to strategize and just believe in yourself and trust yourself and just like, just go out there and do it, because there's so many people that are capable of doing so much more that just don't do it. Like you said, they'll like, there's people who like to rather just do the 9-to-5 job, which is, everyone's got their types of things that they want to do. I feel like there's people out there that are like, I don't enjoy the 9-to-5, but like, I feel like I have to. And so, and it's like those people who feel that, or they're like, I'm not enjoying the position I'm in right now. Like really deeply think about what it is you want. And what is it? Is it ikigai? Is that how you say it? Where it's like the cross between like your passions. It's like the Japanese term between your passions and your life purpose. And you find out like what you're interested in. And it's basically an overlap of all these qualities that make you find like the kind of career path that would be most beneficial to you personally. Just find like your true morals and your goals and what you want and pursue them, psychedelics, that helped me. That helped all of that.
It does. It really does. And I love the way you described it about being an astronaut. It does seem like it gives you a third person perspective on yourself. And once you have that, it's really easy to find the path again. It's like you're out on a hike and you saw this ribbon, so you went way off into the woods and then you got lost. But sometimes you take psychedelics and you get to go to the mountaintop and look down and be like, oh, I just made a wrong turn right there. So if I just double back and come back this way, I'll be right back on that path. It's exactly. So this brings me to this question about, so there seems to be, as I follow like the cultural, God, I can't think of the word, the cultural expansion of whatever's happening now. Like there was like this great resignation. COVID came, it changed a lot of people's lives. There was like a great resignation. There was this quiet quitting, but there seems to be an explosion in content creators. And it seems that, there's all these platforms, whether it's, Rumble, YouTube, Twitter, all these new Clapper, all these new ones coming up. And someone who's in marketing like yourself, what do you see for the future of content creation? Is it going to explode where all of a sudden, do you think the individual content creators are going to take the place of the legacy media? Or what are your thoughts on content creators moving forward?
I honestly, I think it will take over traditional media pretty quick. Like it already has. Like, you know, the only things that still is, you know, you got your sports and you got news, right? And it's like you still got your you got other programs, but it's like they still put them up on streaming after, you know. So it's like eventually I feel like it's just going to be like, instead of being stuck in like, you know, a 24-hour time span 7 days a week of where you can watch something and you got to like schedule your whole day around it or whatever. It's like now it's just like that ease of being able to watch whatever you want. Now the thing with that is like, if you have so much content out there, there's like, where do you start? You know, it's like there could be stuff, there could be just like a bunch of junk being thrown at you, and maybe there's like great stuff that's like behind all there that you just never got to because you didn't see it, you know, because it's the algorithm. You got you're like trusting an algorithm to give you what you want, which is like kind of scary a little bit. But also if you're able to use it in certain ways of like, okay, let me narrow down my niche of who I'm trying to connect with instead of just trying to connect with, you know, 7-8 billion people. Like who do I resonate with? And I think people will start to be able to kind of niche down a little bit, like the type of content they're seeing, but it's all overlapping, right? It's like a network. Once again, it's like mycelium. It's like everything is just like an overlap of everything, and there's like and like things pump certain, like you'll see it pump, and like certain things will pop off, and then it'll suck back in, and might pop off, and then like branches off and goes to another spot. And it's like that's just how like art is in general for humanity, and so I think it'll just be, I think it'll be a lot of mostly just kind of how it is now with content creation of just like you have these tons of it out there, and you got to like rely on referrals from people, or right? It's like you get word of mouth from people, be like, oh, I listened to this and this is really good.
Yep.
You know, like back in the day before, like think about like people had like tape cassettes and stuff, and they're like, you know, they had these bootleg old tapes and stuff that like you only had 4 copies of this tape, and it's like someone had to come and recommend it to you for you to then take that and then copy it and give it to someone else if you liked it enough. And it's like it's like that, but it's just like now fully digitized, and so it's just like hyper explosive, like it's like overwhelming almost. But I think but now so many more people have access to doing video stuff. Like if I had the stuff I had to do the video now, where I'm able to do animations and stuff like that. Like if I had that access to that 20 years ago with the same computer that I had back then, like who knows what I could be doing. So it's like so great that like now there's so many people out there that can get that have the opportunity to have easier access to make content and actually project their brains, you know, because it really is a great way to express yourself and go out there. So yeah, I was born right. I'm glad where I was born. I got to experience it before there was that, to appreciate how great it is now, and then also be like, what are the core things that are still like storytelling, like character building, connection with characters and stuff, is like you still need to have those core things to get yourself stuff to pop off. Like, you know, there's people who do just make all sorts of content, but eventually you have to you need to be authentic. Yeah, you need to be authentic, and no matter what you're doing, and people can pick that up pretty quickly, I feel like, and so you just gotta use these tools to be able to get your art out there. It's easier, but also it's like you really got to be in tune with yourself when you're doing it, to be like happy in the long run. If you're going to keep doing it, because if you're just faking it the whole time, like you're going to be doing that for like 10 years, you're gonna be like, oh my God, this is exhausting. Like just faking all this. So it's like, you know, and you're like, then you get depressed and you're like, I don't like I gotta start over again. So it's like, be the authentic you and put out that content. And I think anyone has like opportunity to make it big now, as long as they put the effort in and put the time in and the passion. They have a passion for it.
Yeah, I love that. I think it on some level it's like the great equalizer, because everyone has access to these platforms. You could get downranked in an algorithm, and look, there's tons of people. You can be mediocre, but if you have a big machine behind you and people paying for your ads or whatever, you're going to get noticed. You're going to get there. But I think that someone who's genuinely engaging and fun and has real ability to see the beauty in others, or has something unique about them that they're able to shine through, that person's going to get noticed. It may take 10 years, but that person will eventually get enough people by word of mouth or just enough out there where they will have their own gravity well and people will be drawn to them. So I love the fact that it's an equalizer. And I love also this idea of these kids coming up now. Like my daughter watches some content creators, and she even tries to create content where they take Roblox games and then they just dub a story over it. You know, and it's like, whoa, look at this. They're playing a video game on silent mode, and then they create their own storyline in it. It's like,
that's awesome.
It's so meta, right? It's like we're using a medium on a medium on a medium. I'm like, dude, I'd give her a hug. Like, I love you. That's so awesome.
Yeah, like that's super cool, because it's like I was telling you, there's like that CGI stuff, but it's like that's basically like you're basically being able to do that with like something that like a structure of a game that has these characters. You're like, okay, what can I do with these? Like they're basically like virtual dolls, right? It's like you're doing this, and it's like now you can record it, and now you got this visual thing that's not just you going like this, like, hey, I'm Ken, I'm Barbie. It's like you actually can do the actions and visually see like what's going on in your brain and be able to like make dialogue. Like that's so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's like that old imagination game where like you take an object and like, what can I make of this? Like, you know, you take a book, you're like, it's a book, it's a brick, it's an umbrella, you know, like,
yes, exactly.
It's you take someone else's content and you just totally repurpose it into something completely different. It's like, okay, I'll take your idea, but I'll just do this. So it's not your idea anymore. It's kind of a way of getting around that whole copyright infringement thing, you know? It's imagination, right? It's imagination.
Yeah, exactly. It should be like a compliment if you're making something, and if someone's making something and it has a piece of something that you put into it, like I would be pumped. Like I'm like, what? Yeah. Like I've had people put my music in things before, and I'm like, that's so cool. Like awesome. Dope. Like that's like it's just bonkers that like to be a part of that, like in that neural network of creativity, to like be able to like put little pieces in there and see what other people can create out of them in their own minds is like, it's, I don't know, I find that super cool. And just like it's just like another way to connect with the world without having to like directly, you know, talk to them, because there's billions of them, you know?
Yeah. So that brings up an idea. Like, it seems to me there's this new pattern of collaboration that's kind of walking hand in hand with competition. You know, if I'm using a little piece of your video or a little piece of this video game, like it just kind of seems to me like that's this new form that's emerging, and it does seem more complementary if everyone is collaborating on some level, and especially some of these new platforms where, you know, if you can control your own information on a platform, you can see via the blockchain, oh, this person remixed my video. Okay, then you're going to get 3 cents on that or something like that. That's a way better model than like trying to put up that fence and copyright everything and block these people off from here, and you can't come here, the guys with the cigars and whatnot, right?
What's this guy? Get him out of here! Get him out of here! No, like I've had that same exact thought, like where it's just like that's what I can't wait for the blockchain to develop enough where it's like you're going to be able to easily be like, okay, you have this unique identifier that's your work, and if someone and everything links back, so it's like if someone makes something, it's like, okay, maybe you get like a couple cents out of that, like, you know what I mean? It's like, but it's just like a little percentage, but like that in a bigger scheme of the world during that, in that giant network, like it's like if you can make the connections with people and like make quality stuff, like now you just got a passive income of like your creativity too.
Yeah.
And I can't wait till that becomes like more mainstream, because when that they get the infrastructure all, like getting people to actually buy into it, you know, which is like, it's slowly happening. It's slowly happening right now.
I agree. And when I just talking about it makes me think about the world in which we live now, where, you know, we talk about automation and, you know, these giant multinational corporations. And sometimes it upsets me because I see this world of automation. Like if you take like an Amazon warehouse and they have all these robots moving stuff around, you know, and they're it's all mechanized. But, you know, it's not like Amazon's like, look, we built all these things, right? This is all our property. But didn't everybody kind of help create that technology? So if a robot comes into that in place, shouldn't everyone get like a little chunk of like, hey man, we all built this. It's not like you get all of it, but that's the same thing. Yeah. Like, that's the same model that I'm talking about for information, right? If we all put in a little bit, we should all get a little bit out. And if you have a little bit times 1,000, now you still got a pretty big chunk, man. Like I'm excited to. I hope to see that coming, man.
Yeah, I think it will. I'm super excited for it too. Like I'm already like, once again, thinking like 5 years in the future. I feel like I think that'll be more mainstream in 5 years. And like, I'm honestly like, I just love trying to just like live, you know, figuring everything out and see how things can move around. And like, it just makes me think, like, I'm so excited for doing video stuff and content creation then, because I think it'll be so much more freeing and more just, fair. It'll be fair.
Yeah.
And fair and fun. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're making something out there that's making people enjoy it, like, it'd be good to get some money out of it,
Yeah.
You don't need it. Obviously, don't need it, but it's like, if you can fund yourself to survive without having to do the things you don't want to do, like, however way that is, that's doing crafts, like, whatever you do, like woodworking, things like that. It's like, I think it'll get a lot easier for people in that respect to be able to get themselves out there and be able to make a living off of just their skills, of no matter what it is, no matter what your trade is.
Yeah, that kind of makes me feel awesome and good inside. It's like, imagine how much the world would be better if the majority of people were doing things they wanted to do instead of doing things that they have to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you start thinking about money, like, the only reason people get up and go to work is because of money. I mean, not all people, but a lot of people. The only reason you're there is because these people pay you, and if they don't pay you enough, I'm gonna do just enough to get through. You know what I mean? You
exactly.
pay me more, I might do a little bit more, but like, you start thinking about money as an incentive, and you're like, oh, no wonder why it sucks. No one even wants to do this. But you start doing something you want to do, all of a sudden you'll do it for free. And that just makes you a better person, happier. I don't know. I love it.
Like, I've done that. I've made some content to people that I respect what you do, and like I could go out there and make I'm not a salesperson at all. I don't do sales. Like, I'm not that type of person. Like, I don't need to talk about, like, oh, look at me, I can do this, blah 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 blah. But like, there's some I was looking for people to work with. Like, I would just made free content based off of content that they had and cut it down, and and that was just, hey, there you go. If you want to do anything with that, cool. But here you go. And it's like, I didn't feel bad if they never talked to me again, because I felt like I was doing it towards something that was towards good. And it's like, so like, even without the monetary value, I'm like, still feel good about it, because I did something that's going to be positive. And it's like, if you keep that mindset, it's like, you will eventually be able to, like, people will be able to see that. Like, they'll see that you're like, I just want to go out here, I want to help people. And like the good old days, like that's what they did before the technology and everything.
I think that comes back to you too. You start doing things for other people, sooner or later you're going to be in a spot and someone's going to do something nice for you. It's like what Gandhi said, right? Be the change that you want to see in the world. You start doing that, all of a sudden people notice that about you, and all of a sudden people start coming towards you like, hey, how did you do that? Or you catch some random stranger on a Tuesday comes to you to make content, even though you've given away tons of free content to other people. This person's like, hey man, what are you doing? How did you do that? I think it really comes back to you when you start putting out those kind of vibrations or vibes or business strategies, whatever you want to call them. It's crazy to think about.
And I think it's a great, like, barometer to just be like, okay, is the stuff that I'm making, does it have value? Like, I could guess whether it has value or not. I could say it doesn't have value, but you could just make stuff and give it to people, and then if they see the value, then it'll get out there. Yeah, exactly. So it's, just figuring out, like, figure out what you think your value, like what you think you can do that has value, and just make it. Solve problems. It's all problem solving. It's just like, just solve whatever problem someone has with the specific skill that you have.
It's true, man. It's true. What's up on the on the horizon for you, man? You got some comedy gigs coming up, or you got some you could be focusing on the media and the comedy together. What's next on your agenda?
Oh, all of it, man. I'm just like putting my hand in everything, like media, really. So like my comedy group TCE, we just started a show. We connected once again, just like weird lives connecting, is like this guy who does wrestling. He's a wrestling promoter. He has a Standing 8 Entertainment in Glens Falls, and connected with him through one of the buddies in our group. And now we're doing this. We just came up with this show where it's basically like this character John Kane, so he's like this really rich guy, goes into a town and wants to take over the town and just basically turn it into like the red light district. He's like a psychopath, like rich man, but he's like the Joker from like the 60s. Like, like carrying money, like, I'm coming for you. But it's like his first thing is he wants to take over this Standing 8 Entertainment because of the name, because the word Standing 8, because innuendos. And so it's this whole premise of him trying to take over this wrestling organization from this guy because he wants his name before he takes over the town. And so like that's a series that we're working on right now. We've been connecting with a bunch of people. It's very fun. Like check it out. TC Comedy. That's fun on there. And then we're just making other content. Like we got another show called Frank Franklin Private High, where I'm a detective that solves crimes while I'm high. I can only solve crimes while high because my brain goes like that and it starts connecting everything, and stuff that's not relevant at all. So yeah, we're just doing different fun series like that, and then with Lyrics, it's just like I'm just working with different companies that need help, want to work on things, and right now more like on social media, but like really any video content creation really. And I just wanted to help people. Like I actually reached out to a lot of like on LinkedIn, I followed a lot of like psychedelics and stuff like that because I honestly think because that's one of those things where I'm like it helped me. And it's like if I can project that vision of like showing people how it does, and I could help companies that can do that, like heck yeah, like I would love that because that once again it feels like it's a net positive with humanity. Like you could die off and it's not like it wasn't just like, oh, here's how much money you got from it. It's just like, oh, that simmered and kept going into the network of other people, and hopefully the same thing with like the creative economy is like it's still your mind, it's still all a network, and it's like if you can keep that network of what's going on in here and you can attach other nodes from other people into yours and then spread it out, it's like that's I don't know, I find that very cool and rewarding. It feels good. Yeah. So that's kind of like the angles I'm going at right now.
Yeah, I think that's a huge positive. When I look at the psychedelic community, there's a big push in there for, people that are administering psychedelics to help other people. Like those doctors or those facilitators should have multiple psychedelic experiences before they're trying to help other people with psychedelic experiences. And I think that transfers over into media. Like if you're going to be a content creator and produce media for a psychedelic company, you have to have like psychedelic experiences. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't just be like, oh, it's just everything goes wham, and people's mouths go wow. Like it's like it's funny like seeing like those old like cartoons or just like crazy stuff. You're like that's not what happens, but okay. Like whatever you interpret is cool, I guess. Right. But it's like you need to you can't be preached. I feel like that's the type of stuff you can't be preaching if you haven't tried it because it's it's like esoteric. Like you don't know until you try it you can't put into words really. It's like it's beyond you can't explain it and have like I couldn't tell someone what it's like who hasn't done it and have them know and be like, oh yeah, I could probably deal with that. Like no, it's completely different. You're not going to realize till you do it.
But that comes back to comedy too, right? Like the people that can really get out there and make something funny about a tragic situation, or people that have been in a tragic situation and found something funny about it, right? It's that ability to translate there, like, hey, let me tell you this funny story when this guy raped me, or like something crazy,
like it's like you try to find a way to like okay, yeah, sucked, not fun, but but like here's how we can cope with that and deal with that and realize like oh man, that was like a crazy situation that was like messed up, but like there's ways to be able to move on, move on from like these crazy traumas.
It's awesome to think about. I think that's such a beautiful part of comedy and just communication too. Ultimately, when we're communicating with people, be it through video, be it through song or music or just talking to one another, what we're really doing is trying to find ways to solve problems through the eyes of somebody else. And if you can communicate that to people, regardless of what medium you choose, I think you're becoming a better human being. You're making the world a little bit better. And that is what I think you're doing, my friend. So I want to say thanks.
Well, thanks. Thank you, man. That's very kind of you. That feels good.
It's true, man.
Awesome. Hell yeah.
It's true. Well, Stephen, we're coming up. Steven, we're coming. I'm saying that right? Steven. Sometimes
Steven.
Okay.
There's Steph, not Steph. Like some people, Stefan. Which like it sounds fancy, sure, if you want to. But I'm not a fancy man, but go for it.
We're coming up on about an hour right here, and I gotta say, I know it goes really fast, huh? Especially when you have like a really cool conversation and you're learning all this stuff, man. But I want to say thanks for everything today. Where can people find you? What do you have coming up, and what are you excited about?
Oh, that's sick. Okay, so you can catch me on social media. I have Larix, like on Instagram, Lerrix. The name Larix came from squirrel backwards phonetically. The word squirrel. If you took this word squirrel and flip it, it kind of sounds like Larix. I like squirrels. Check out larixmedia.com if you need any content made. Check out TCE Comedy, Transcendental Comedy, TCEcomedy.com to check out if you like some lowbrow humor. And yeah, just working on those shows like I was saying before, and just seeing however I can help out people, and enjoy my life while I'm here. Make the most of it, and laugh a little bit before I hit the big one.
Yeah, I agree 100%, man. Really well done. Everybody go down to the show notes, check out Larix Media, check out the comedy. If you need any content done, I highly recommend Steven right here. He's got some awesome stuff. Go check out his things. I mean, don't take it from me. Go there, check it out. And I think just by this interview alone, I think you can see what kind of guy he is. You can see what he's up to, and it's really rewarding. And you should probably get to him before he starts charging astronomical amounts of money. So,
get those deals now, baby.
Right?
Come get those deals. Fire sale over here.
All right. Well, hang on one second. I'm going to talk to you for a minute after this, but I'm going to hang out with the people here. So, ladies and gentlemen,
awesome. Sounds good.
Aloha Friday. I hope everybody has a beautiful weekend. Thanks for hanging out. That's all we got for today. Aloha.